Well, this is a first, isn't it? Making a Battle of the Blasters video before making a review on the star contestant. That probably isn't going to happen again, and it's kind of unheard of to happen on this channel, mainly because, one, I never do Battle of the Blasters because it is very experimental and I only really do it when I really want to, and two, I have been delaying even using the Nerf Pro Sender for a very long time, to the point where the blaster's almost a year old, and I'm just now getting to it. And yes, don't worry, a review on this is going to hit the channel very soon. I'm almost done editing it by the time I'm recording this video, so you will have that probably posted incredibly soon. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. I've been wanting to make this video more than I've been wanting to make the review, because I need to vent out a list of frustrations that has rattled me to my core to someone who is willing to hear it before I review this blaster. Because I have never been more mad at Hasbro than this thing's release, ever. This thing has made me more frustrated than any other blaster they've ever put out, for quite a big list of reasons, most of them stemming back to the Maxim Pro. And I cannot look at this thing completely objectively every time I go to film a video on it, because I am literally just too mad to look at the facts and not just wish that this thing never released to the public. So my ultimate goal here is to get all those frustrations and biases out of my system right now, where you guys can visibly see them and they have no impact on my actual review, before I try and make a fully objective video on this blaster, so that hopefully I can actually bring myself to provide you guys objective information without getting so far off the rails that I literally stop recording midway through the review, which has happened 26 times while trying to review this blaster already. So with all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, allow me to introduce to you Battle of the Blasters, the Nerf Pro Sender versus the Zone Maxim Pro. Let's get into it. Surprise! First, let's establish the ground rules, commonalities, and similarities between these blasters. They are both in the $40 to $50 range, currently available for the exact same price of 45 United States dollars. They are both flywheel semi-automatic magazine-fed blasters. They both take short darts. They both shoot 150 FPS. They both take 8 AA's out of the box. They both have stock attachment points. They're both sold on the same shelves. And most importantly, they both feature some kind of weird, catastrophic, life-destroying problem. They really weren't trying that much to differentiate these two when you think about it. But I think the most important similarity is the fact that both of these blasters are made by first-party companies that are available at Walmarts and Targets and on Amazon and in a lot of other places as well. Both of these blasters you can go and pick up. They both have really big names on them, like Nerf and Adventure Force. Two names that are very heavily looked up upon in the foam flinging industry nowadays. So, let's take a look at the pros and the cons of each particular blaster, starting with the pros of the Nerf Pro Sender. This one heavily depends on who you ask, but in my personal opinion, the size. This blaster is way smaller. You are able to get a much tighter grip on this thing than you can on the Maxim Pro. It is very good for CQB, but you can totally still just hold it out like a pistol using this thing as a wrist brace and make it a larger blaster. But it is very good for CQB. It's very tight against your body, and it is the most maneuverable blaster I've ever seen, even more so than things like the N-Series Sprinter or the Nerf Raven. Second is the actual implementation of a jam door, which seems like it shouldn't be an issue, but the Maxim Pro doesn't have one for some reason. It has a large hole in the side of the magwell that you can stick your finger up into to access the actual flywheels instead of an actual, jam door, which I'm not sure why they did it like that, but they did for some bizarre reason. So the fact that this has a jam door is a pro for sure. And the most important pro here is the fact that this blaster does not burn out. This blaster actually has a competent set of motors and micro switch inside of it that prevent burnouts when using it on the included 8AA battery configuration. Obviously, it doesn't include batteries, but it does take 8AA's in this large bottom grip guard thing, whatever you want to call this, because they couldn't be bothered to just make this a little bit thicker to put that there. But I digress. They put the batteries there, and the blaster does not burn out, which means you can get this thing from the store and then take it straight to a game and be able to use it. Now let's take a look at the pros of the Zone Maxim Pro. First, starting with the ergonomic setup. This blaster features a conventional grip, stock, and foregrip area setup, which on their own makes up a better handhold in general, considering the Nerf Pro Sender doesn't have a foregrip, but also just better ergonomics in general. The stock is longer and is an adjustable point, which has this kind of Dart Zone buffer tube on it and an end strike stock attachment point, which is also seen on the Sender, but is much worse implemented. The main grip is a way better shape with an actual, smaller top than a bottom, which the Sender for some reason has a wider top, which makes it very uncomfortable. And most importantly, there's an area to put your offhand on this blaster, which makes it way less unbearable to hold than the Nerf Sender, which you kind of just have to figure out what to do with. I put my hand right up here, which, yeah, you can't really aim with it, and it makes it really weird to actually shoulder it, but it's better than absolutely nothing. Second, and this is a very controversial take, is the triggers. And this includes the rev trigger. People do not like this rev trigger for a big reason. It is very difficult to control compared to an actual middle finger rev trigger. It is really large, it's really spongy, and it just doesn't feel right. But this feels so much better than the rev trigger on the Sender. The rev trigger on the Sender is the spongiest, most garbage feeling, slowly returning to position, mushy, like it feels like you're pulling the rev trigger through a thick layer of molasses rev trigger. Oh my god, does this rev trigger absolutely suck. And this rev trigger's quality alone made me appreciate the Maxim Pro's rev trigger way more. And that's partially why I was so light on this rev trigger in my review, which some people said was kind of biased and I was leaning towards Dart Zone. I'm tempted to agree with that, because honestly, that wasn't one of my best videos. But what I will stand by is the fact that this rev trigger is so much better than the one on the Sender that I will happily trade it being on the back of the grip for the actual quality of whatever garbage Hasbro put in the Sender's rev trigger. The main trigger is infinitely better than the Sender's. It feels so good. This is one of my favorite triggers ever. I like it more than a regular lubricated stock Strife trigger. And that's really saying something, because Dart Zone usually never makes things this good quality, but this trigger really does feel good. And the mag release, don't even get me started. It actually feels like a proper mag release in a really good spot. You can hit it with your middle finger, you can hit it with your thumb, it's in a conventional spot. You don't have to deal with the weird bullpup mumbo jumbo mag release that this thing has, which, what is this? It is so tight, you end up pinching your fingers or doing some of this. The magwell is tight. Look at the main trigger. Why is the main trigger so wide? Like, why are the triggers on this blaster so unbelievably bad, especially compared to the Maxim Pro? I really desperately want you guys to understand that I don't like the Maxim Pro at all. That is literally just how bad this thing is. Third, alright, the fact that this blaster's battery tray can actually be removed and replaced with an XT30 connected battery. So you can put a Li-ion or a LiPo inside of this blaster instead of the 8AA's. This can be seen as both a pro and a con, because as a pro, it means that this blaster is compatible with more unique batteries that are more commonly seen in the hobby, assuming you use an XT60 to 30 converter. But at the same time, it's also a con, because if you put any of those voltage batteries in this blaster, there is a way higher chance of your motors to tell you no and expose this blaster's serious core weaknesses, which is the actual quality of the motors and microswitch, being notoriously bad. Some of the worst I've ever seen out of any flywheeler. The motors and microswitch in this blaster are so bad that they make up 95% of all complaints seen with this blaster by any reviewer ever. Fourth, and oh my god, this one really does make my life so much better when it comes to this blaster and so much worse when it comes to the Sender. Talon mags, not angled talons. This blaster uses a conventional mag well and conventional mag geometry, so it is compatible with Talon mags instead of the much less utilized angled Talon mags, which literally means so many more people can just use this blaster when so many less people use the angled Talon mag geometry seen with the Nerf Pro Sender. This is an angled Talon mag geometry. I have angled talons and they fit in this blaster. I got incredibly lucky because I had a Phoenix 2.0 and I heavily stocked up on angled Talon mags. And when I traded my Phoenix 2.0 in for a different blaster, I kept all my mags. If it wasn't for that, this video probably still wouldn't be coming out because I probably still wouldn't have tested it because these mags suck. But the point being, this blaster uses angled talons, which not very many people have, which means most likely, if you get this blaster, you're going to be limited to Hasbro's awkward and almost proprietary mags, which are sold at Walmarts and Targets. Isn't that great? Now, look, I know I have pretty much been praising this thing a lot, and I have been absolutely trashing the Nerf Pro Sender when this blaster will actually do what you want it to, and this blaster has a really good chance to just die straight out of the box to an unfixable level that you literally have to be good at modding in order to fix, which is an incredibly large con, and is one of the biggest pros I have to give towards the Nerf Pro Sender. And that is an incredibly sad pro to have to give a blaster when you are praising the thing just because it will not die out of the box. The blaster doing the absolute bare minimum required to function should not be a pro. This should not be a world we live in where I have to say that a blaster is better than another one due to its ability to not tell you no and shut itself off indefinitely after buying it from a first-party company that you can buy from Walmart. And yet here we stand. And I have to decide if a blaster dying but being really good at everything else that it does is better or worse than a blaster not dying but being so bad at everything that it does that using it makes me want to jump off the Empire State Building without a parachute. I have thought this over for a very long time, longer than I want to admit. Longer than I have even had the Maxim Pro for. I genuinely wanted to figure out whether this thing was worth the absolute hassle just because of the price. And at this point, it's even harder of an argument because this thing has dropped in price down to $25 because absolutely no one wants to take responsibility for this piece of plastic. And I am here to tell you, after an extraordinary amount of self-debate and literally just laying there staring up at the ceiling, thinking about these two nuggets, trying to figure out which one is worse than the other one, I am here to give the point and the winner to the Maxim Pro. Barely. And it's only on a technical level, because let's take a look at the problems with both of these blasters. This blaster has faulty motors and a faulty micro switch, which can and most likely will burn out. And when they burn out, they're dead, and you have to replace them. However, this blaster's problems come with the fundamentals of the actual blaster itself. The ergonomics, the lack of a foregrip, the triggers, the fact that the main trigger is so wide, the fact that it uses angled talons instead of standard talon mags, the fact that the flywheel cage can be sometimes misaligned, and most of the time it is misaligned when you buy it, rendering the blaster pretty much useless and making modding it really, really hard. The fact that the stock attachment point doesn't have a bottom to it, so any stock you put can just bend down and break off, which, yeah, that's been tested. Aspricosaurus227, link is in the description. Go subscribe, he's hilarious. This blaster's problems can be solved by just the bare minimum of modding, a few minutes of your time, and a soldering iron. This blaster's problems can be an entire weekend to try and figure out how to fix. And by that reason alone, this one is just better. Either way, no matter how you look at it, I don't think anyone should trust just getting one of these from Walmart and taking it to a local game. I think that if you buy either of these blasters, you really need to be willing to give it some time, love, and effort in order to make it not suck. And this blaster is very easy to make not suck. Just replace the motors, replace the micro switch, and maybe put some more lubricant on the trigger, and there you go, you're done. You've got a really good slammin' flywheeler for $40. While this blaster, even if you really do put all the effort required to make it work and be functional and decent, you're still going to have problems. Like the main grip being way too wide up at the top, and the fact that it uses angled talons. So you're going to be stuck with a proprietary mag type that almost nobody has invested heavily into. People have invested into Nightingale mags and Talon mags because they just make more sense. They're cheaper and they're easier to implement into blasters. Angled talons are an obsolete mag type. Everybody knows that. Even though I have a lot of angled talons, which is why I am against getting blasters with Nightingale mags, because I just don't have enough Nightingale mags to really enjoy the blasters to their fullest, I can truly appreciate how much better Nightingale mags are for angled half darts than the original worker angled talon mags. So for Hasbro to use this is the stupidest decision I've ever seen them make. And that is literally one of the biggest reasons why this thing pisses me off so much. They had talon geometry with the Strife X. Why did they change it to this? Why did they change it to that? The Strife X mags were fine. People bought them because they were fine. They did not need to reinvent the angled talon mag just for their two garbage pro blasters that nobody wants. And you want to know what that has led to? Piles and piles of these mags sitting at Ollie's and Walmart for less than $1 for 2 of them. And I don't even want to go and get those to stockpile on them because there's no point. Even if I stockpile these, they only work in this and the Torrent. And if you've seen my review on the Torrent, you'll know exactly how much better that blaster is than the Sender. So the moral of the story at the end of the day is, really, neither of these blasters are good. This one is just marginally better than this one because when it works so much better that the experience is almost unmatched by any other blaster I have, which is why I praise it so heavily in my review. I really do love using the Maxim Pro. It is one of my favorite flywheelers to play with. It is so fun, but it's not good. It's really bad. And this blaster is unusably bad. Yes, it technically works, but does that really make it better? I don't think so. So, my personal recommendation, if you have to get one of these, buy a Venom Pro or a Nightingale. I'm done. Have a good night.